Imagine handing over like $5,000 to a guy in a specific colored skirt.
Just sitting there.
Yeah, just sitting completely idle under a tree. And you pay him just so he can teach you how to experience, well, absolutely nothing.
I mean, it sounds like a complete scam, honestly.
All right, it totally does. And yet, millions of people essentially do exactly this every single day, in one form or another.
It's wild to think about.
It really is. So, welcome to today's deep dive. Today, we're looking at a philosopher who says we are completely missing the point of existence.
And we are paying a massive premium to do it, too.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this, because we are navigating through two incredibly dense, highly provocative video lectures by a thinker named Sivayogi.
Yeah, and it all really centers around a single explosive word.
Yes. The word is Soonyam, and to a lot of people, depending on your cultural context, Soonyam translates to an evil spell.
It's seen as dark, something you're supposed to ward off.
Right. But in these lectures, Soonyam is presented as the literal embodiment of the divine.
Which is a massive conceptual whiplash.
Oh, totally.
And, just to be clear right from the jump, the goal today isn't to convert you or validate any particular theology.
No, not at all.
We are just impartially exploring this really radical teardown of commercialized spirituality. It's a critique of rigid rituals and really how humanity fundamentally defines God.
Yeah, it's essentially a mirror held up to our most deeply ingrained habits. So the central thesis here is that God is not a person.
Right.
It's not a supreme being sitting on a cloud somewhere, and it is definitely not a stone statue in a temple. God is Soonyam.
Which means?
It means empty space, or what he calls vedaveli.
Right, the literal void, which is incredibly difficult for the human brain to process.
It really is, and the lectures use this fascinating cosmic perspective to explain it.
Yeah.
Like, think about the Big Bang.
Okay.
Think about the violent formation of nebulas or the swirling of entire galaxies. All of that matter, all of that energy had to happen somewhere.
Yeah, you need a place for it to exist.
Exactly. Before the universe was born, there had to be a container for it. And that container is empty space.
So the argument is that this nothingness is actually the ultimate creator, because it allows everything else to exist.
But wait, I am struggling with this a bit.
Okay, lay it on me.
Well, if God is just the empty space, the literal nothingness, I mean, isn't that just an atheist's view of the universe?
That's a good point.
It kind of feels like we are just taking the scientific vacuum of space and, I don't know, calling it God to make it sound poetic. Like, how is nothing a creator?
That's a really valid pushback. But what's fascinating here is why we naturally reject the idea of an empty void as divine.
Why do we?
Well, humans are entirely wired by evolution to recognize objects, right? Boundaries, forms. We need things we can touch or visualize to feel safe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If something doesn't have a shape, we assume it's irrelevant or dead. But these lectures argue that by forcing the infinite into a finite shape, we actually degrade its power.
Oh, I see. It's like staring at a painting.
Who?
We always obsess over the brushstrokes, right? The vibrant colors, the actual picture of the landscape.
Sure.
But we completely ignore the blank canvas sitting underneath all of it. Without the canvas, the paint literally has nowhere to exist. Is the speaker saying the canvas is God?
That is a perfect way to visualize it. Yes, the canvas is the prerequisite for the art.
Wow.
And because we ignore the canvas, we start coming up with incredibly rigid definitions for the paint.
Right.
There is a brilliant linguistic breakdown in the lectures of the English word, GOD.
Oh, yeah, the acronym part.
Right, the acronym is often described as generate, organize, and destroy, which are the three major functions of the universe.
Okay, yeah. Birth, life, and death. Makes sense.
But then consider what happens when you spell GOD backward.
Wait, you get dog.
Exactly, you get dog.
Oh, wow. That's actually a pretty jarring image.
It is meant to be jarring.
Yeah.
The underlying logic is that when humans take the limitless empty canvas of the universe and try to cram it into a rigid, human-made concept.
Like giving it a name or a gender.
Exactly, giving it specific rules. We are essentially reversing its nature. We take the ultimate and turn it into something mundane or even domesticated.
We insult the infinite by trying to put a leash on it.
Precisely. We try to put a leash on it.
That makes total sense. We want the universe to fit into a neat little box so we can understand it. But in doing so, we completely miss its actual scale.
Yeah, and because we can't intuitively grasp that infinite nothingness, we default to something we can control, which is our intellect.
Right, we want to outsmart it.
We read ancient texts, we memorize scriptures, we basically try to intellectualize the void.
Which brings us to one of the most compelling arguments in the material, honestly. The treacherous gap between reading about reality and actually experiencing it.
Oh, the bus analogy.
Yes, there's this hilarious, very practical analogy about waiting at a bus stand for bus 62.
It's so good.
Imagine a highly educated intellectual standing there. They've read the city transit manual cover to cover. They know they need bus 62 to get to their destination.
They did all the research.
Exactly. So a bus pulls up, but because of a glitch on the digital display, it reads 62 with a slash at the end, like 62. The intellectual is paralyzed by their own rigid adherence to the text, so they refuse to get on. It doesn't perfectly match the book, so they reject it entirely.
And they might end up stranded or taking a completely wrong route later just because they trusted a printed page over the reality right in front of them.
Exactly. Meanwhile, you have an illiterate person who can't even read the destination sign. They walk up, ask a local vendor, like, hey, which bus goes downtown?
Right.
The vendor points to the blue and white bus. The person hops on the 62 bus and gets home perfectly fine. The intellect actually blocked the experience.
It's a profound critique of how we acquire knowledge. We constantly confuse the map with the territory.
There's another great example from the source about food, which I loved. It involves upma.
Oh yeah, the breakfast dish.
Right, a savory South Indian breakfast dish. It's essentially a deeply flavorful semolina porridge.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it is. So let's say you eat a friend's upma and it's mind-blowing. You use your intellect to observe the dish. You write down the visible ingredients.
Semolina, mustard seeds, onions.
Chilies, exactly. You go home, perfectly replicate your list, and it tastes completely flat.
Because you just observed.
Right. You relied purely on observation. You didn't ask the friend for the secret technique, which was squeezing fresh ginger juice in at the very end.
Ah, the hidden detail.
You had the formula, but you lacked the actual invisible essence. Isn't the speaker essentially saying that book smarts can actually be a roadblock to true wisdom?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it highlights the core mechanism of why this disconnect happens, which is human arrogance.
Arrogance.
Yeah. When people consume a massive amount of literature or, learn prestigious ancient languages, they tend to develop an immense ego.
Because they think they know it all.
Right. They think they hold the ultimate truth simply because they've memorized the ingredients list. But that arrogance becomes a blindfold. Once you think you possess the recipe, you stop asking questions. You stop looking for the ginger juice, basically.
And the lectures do not hold back on applying this to major historical figures either.
No, not at all. They actively deconstruct the traditional narratives. Like, take the story of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha.
Oh, right. The conventional narrative is always that he made this grand holy sacrifice.
Abandoning his wife and newborn child in the middle of the night to seek enlightenment in the forest.
Right. It's always framed as this ultimate act of spiritual detachment.
But this material argues it was actually a profound mistake.
Wait, really? A mistake?
Yeah, and the reasoning is fascinating. Because if God, or ultimate reality, is Soonyam, if it's the empty space that exists literally everywhere, including in your own living room,
then you can't run away to find it.
Exactly. You cannot run away to find it. The realization Buddha supposedly came to later was that asceticism and starvation in the woods didn't bring him any closer to truth than being a father would have.
Because the void is omnipresent.
Right. The escape was an illusion. Enlightenment isn't about fleeing your circumstances. It's about experiencing the empty space right where you are.
That is a total paradigm shift. It tells you, the listener, that the formula for success you've been following might just be a trap.
Absolutely.
Like, think of a time you rigidly adopted a morning routine or, a management style from a best-selling book.
Oh, we've all been there.
You checked every single box, but it failed miserably because you were operating purely on intellect. You missed the actual messy, hands-on experience of adapting it to your own reality. The recipe isn't the meal.
Exactly. The lived experience is always messier, but infinitely more real.
But if the true experience of Soonyam is this omnipresent, simple reality, why is modern spirituality so insanely complicated?
That is the million-dollar question.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because lectures launch a brutal critique of the spiritual marketplace.
It is essentially an economics lesson disguised as philosophy.
Completely. Because people are exhausted and they want a shortcut to enlightenment, an entire industry exists to sell it to them.
Supply and demand.
Yeah, and the absurdities called out in these videos are staggering. We're talking about modern-day gurus charging up to 5 lakh rupees.
Which is, what, tens of thousands of dollars?
Easily. just to teach basic yogic breathing techniques.
And people willingly pay it, because high prices create an illusion of high value.
They totally do. Or consider the costumes. People wrapping themselves in a simple loincloth or wearing specific orange or white skirts purely as a performance of holiness.
Right, playing a part.
The lectures mock this idea of a so-called saint who sits perfectly still under a banyan tree for 4 days.
Just doing nothing.
Yeah, doing nothing. Passersby see this guy not moving, assume he has achieved some godlike transcendence, and start dropping expensive red bananas at his feet.
Wow.
He's literally being rewarded for doing absolutely nothing.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals how heavily society relies on spectacle. The lectures actually use an incredibly strange but illustrative analogy from Australia.
Now, the kangaroo hawk, I love this part.
Right. The speaker mentions a trained hawk in Australia that reportedly earns the equivalent of 10 lakhs a month, which is a massive corporate salary, just to fly around and chase kangaroos away from airport runways.
Okay.
The mechanism here is arbitrary valuation. Society assigns a monetary value to a bird because it performs a spectacular utility.
Right.
Similarly, society assigns massive spiritual authority to a guy in a loincloth because he performs the spectacle of stillness. We equate bizarre behavior with divine connection.
But it gets darker than just silly performances.
Yeah.
There's a deeply biting social critique here.
Yeah, there really is.
The material points out the glaring hypocrisy in how these rituals are applied. You have devotees who will pour gallons of incredibly expensive milk, rare honey, and clarified butter over a black stone statue in a temple.
Right.
They treat an inanimate carved rock with the highest possible reverence.
But simultaneously, those exact same devotees will enforce brutal caste discrimination, violently preventing a living, breathing human being from a lower caste from even stepping foot inside the temple courtyard.
Exactly. They revere the rock and desecrate the human. It is just such a devastating point.
And it explains the why behind complex rituals, you know. It's about control.
Control.
Yeah. When you commodify spirituality, when you insist it requires specific expensive offerings, secret mantras, and exclusive temple access, you instantly create a hierarchy.
And you control who holds the keys to the divine.
Precise.
The lectures argue that even revered practices like the vow of silence are mostly a sham.
Oh, definitely.
A guru might refuse to speak for 30 days, writing little notes on a chalkboard to communicate. But inside their head, it's absolute chaos.
Yeah, the internal monologue doesn't stop.
Right. They are calculating their bank balance, mentally writing poems, holding grudges. They've just shut their mouth, but their mind is screaming.
Which is why the material emphasizes a completely different concept. Samvirukti Nirodha.
Samvirukti Nirodha, okay.
Yeah, it translates to the actual cessation of thoughts. True silence isn't taping your mouth shut, it's an internal emptying.
Like clearing the canvas.
Exactly. Imagine sitting in a room, and instead of trying to silence the loud television in your mind, you simply unplug the television entirely.
Wow. Okay.
You stop feeding energy into the narrative of past regrets and future anxieties. That internal quiet is the only real vow of silence.
Okay, so we've thrown out the expensive gurus, the loincloths, the milk-soaked statues, and the fake vows of silence.
We've cleared the deck.
If we strip all of that away, how does an ordinary person actually interact with this empty void? I mean, if God is nothingness, how do you connect with nothing without completely losing your mind?
You shift your focus from external noise to internal resonance.
Yes. And the lectures use language to demonstrate this beautifully. We are often told that to reach God, you need to recite elite, gate-kept languages like Sanskrit.
Right, very complex phonetics.
But this material heavily praises the Tamil language. It explains the physical mechanics of how its sounds are actually produced.
Right, it moves away from language as just a set of vocabulary words and treats it as a biological function.
Exactly. Think about the fundamental Tamil vowel sounds. A, I, U, E, O. You don't have to contort your tongue or learn complex palate placements to make these sounds. They originate deep in the chest and throat.
It's effortless.
If you just open your mouth and exhale with vocalization, an ah sound naturally emerges. The argument is that these sounds are literally the body's natural acoustic resonance.
The physical body is basically acting as a tuning fork for the universe.
I love that, a tuning fork. And it completely redefines everyday interactions. Take the common Tamil greeting, Vanakkam.
Yeah, which we usually just translate as hello.
Right, a simple hello. But the material argues the root meaning is much deeper. It means, let us be in harmony. Or the word nandri, which means thank you. It's described not just as a polite social grace, but as a profound internal recognition of the Soonyam. the emptiness that allowed you to exist in the first place.
So is the implication here that God isn't a being who listens to your prayers, but actually a frequency?
Exactly, yeah.
A sound or vibration, what the lectures call Nithem, that naturally echoes inside the empty space.
Yes, that is precisely the mechanism being described. The divine is a fundamental vibration. To illustrate this, the lecturers quote a really powerful regional verse.
Oh, let's hear it.
It goes, Natakale the hivam andru.
What does that mean?
It essentially mocks the foolishness of planting a stone in the ground, walking around it, and whispering sacred mantras to a rock.
While completely ignoring the living, vibrating resonance that exists right inside your own chest.
Exactly. Whispering to rocks while ignoring your own heartbeat. That is a hauntingly beautiful way to put it.
It is. And it underscores the absolute tragedy of the spiritual marketplace. You are desperately searching outside for something that is inherently generating the rhythm of your own breath.
Yeah, you don't need to travel to a sacred mountain.
Right. The physical mechanics of your own lungs expanding and collapsing is the resonance of Soonyam.
So what does this all mean? We've journeyed through astrophysics, linguistics, and sociology. But how does knowing that the universe is a resonating blank canvas actually change your Tuesday morning?
Well, the ultimate practical application of this entire philosophy is radical, unapologetic freedom.
Yes, because the conclusion is incredibly liberating. God doesn't need your complicated rituals.
Nope.
God doesn't want your 50,000 rupees. And God certainly doesn't require your suffering. The universe is not a cosmic merchant running a ledger trading blessings for good deeds.
Or trading them for expensive red bananas.
Huh, exactly.
When you internalize that the ultimate reality is just empty space and internal resonance, you basically give yourself permission to simply exist.
Right.
You can drop the immense, crushing weight of societal pressures.
The lectures make a very grounded point about marriage to illustrate this. They argue you don't even need a culturally mandated ritual to validate your relationship.
Really?
Yeah, you don't need a thali, which is a traditional, highly symbolic wedding necklace in South India, or a diamond ring, or a massive ceremony. You can just live together happily as friends, as partners. The ritual, the jewelry, the priest, none of that generates the love.
The resonance between the two people does.
Exactly.
This raises an important question for every single person navigating modern life. It forces us to really audit our behaviors.
How so?
Are we actively choosing our daily rituals because they bring us genuine meaning and joy?
Right.
Or are we simply trapped by them because we're terrified of what society will say if we stop performing?
That is the perfect challenge for you listening right now. Take a hard look at your own life. Where are you performing empty rituals?
Yeah, what's your version of the stone statue?
Exactly. Maybe it's in your career, clinging to a title that makes you miserable. Maybe it's the way you manage your relationships, doing things just out of obligation.
Or maybe it's just a rigid morning routine you read about online.
Are you standing at the bus stop, refusing to get on bus 62 because it doesn't match the textbook? Completely missing the actual journey.
It is dangerously easy to spend your entire life pouring expensive milk over a stone, completely forgetting to listen to the rhythm of your own breath.
All right, let's briefly recap this wild ride we've been on. We started with the concept of Soonyam, a vast empty space, the literal blank canvas of the universe. We explored how human intellect, arrogance, and economic greed rush to complicate that simple emptiness.
We fill the void with statues, rigid rules, massive fees, and fake costumes.
And finally, we stripped all that external noise away to arrive back at the simple biological resonance of our own existence.
It brings us right back to the tension we established at the very beginning,
Which is
the profound comfort of visible objects versus the undeniable truth of the invisible void, which leaves us with the final thought to ponder.
Let's hear it.
If the ultimate truth of the universe is nothingness, a vast, limitless canvas that quietly allows all of creation to happen, how does that change the way we view the overwhelming cluttered moments in our own minds?
Oh, wow.
When you are stressed, anxious, and your brain is incredibly noisy, instead of fighting the chaos of those thoughts, what if you simply focused on expanding the empty space between them?
A profound note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Keep questioning the paint, and don't forget to appreciate the canvas. Keep exploring.